Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Stream Dialogue. So, the situation with Nigeria and the United States, the president of the US, uh, actually escalated is, you would call it, threats to intervene militarily in Nigeria, military action against the Islamic State in Nigeria. And, you know, contrary to international law, no state should intervene unilaterally in another state in terms of military action and so forth. So the Nigerian government did not invite anyone to come and intervene militarily in Nigeria. Let's just put it there. Let's just put that out there. But also, of course, we understand geopolitics and international relations, especially in the time we're living now, where diplomacy doesn't work. Certain people cannot use diplomacy because they don't believe themselves to be, to use diplomacy to work with other states, and they don't view other states as equal, especially states within the global south in Africa, especially where we're focusing. So Nigeria, this threat by the US president to stop so-called genocide against Christians, which funny enough that not only Christians that are being unalived in Nigeria en masse, or Muslim that are being unalived en masse in Nigeria. There are also people who practice traditional religion in in Nigeria that are actually disproportionately being taken out by this Al Qaeda linked group Boko Haram. So, ladies and gentlemen, why are why now? Why are these threats being made by the US president? In my opinion, this is my analysis of things. Talk without analysis is just chatter. You're just yapping. So I'll give you two main reasons. But before I get to those reasons, first and foremost, racism is a symbol of imperialism. Also, racism is born out of ignorance. People think they're better than you. They don't understand you. They don't understand themselves. So therefore, they try they that is manifested itself through racism. But also at the root of the cause is root of it is imperialism. You feel like you have your right to take what's not yours and what belongs to somebody else. And how you can excuse that sometimes you use like racism to say these Africans are endowed with all these resources. They're not doing anything with it. These resources should belong to us, the superior ones, and so forth. But let's not delve into that right now. Racism is a part of it. That's why we see this. Part of the reason why we see this loud, threats against Nigeria, illegal under international law. But if you watch a documentary done by the founder of West Africa Weekly, David Hundeyin, I'll put his name up here. I don't know if I pronounce his name correctly. It was done a few years ago when Bola Tinubu first came on the scene to run for president, where it is documented in that documentary about Bola Tinubu's past life of drug dealing in the US, according to the documentary, what I got from the documentary. And also he was caught by US officials, and he then cooperated with security or the feds, the feds in the US. But ladies and gentlemen, in our analysis, we will say Bola Tinubu is a creation of the West. Is a creation of the West. So that is one of the reasons why they can make this bold and outlandish threat to a country like Nigeria, which should be a one of the strongest states in Africa, which should be. It's definitely not, but it has that persona. He has that persona on the Wall Street. He's one of those powerhouse in the region that it is, and in Africa, it comes with a lot of weight. So this is not only insulting the Nigerian people and Africa in a sense, like I don't know how to phrase it to say that it is to come out and make these flagrant threats and so forth to show that, or it is showing how weak Africa is, African states are. We heard, there are a lot of countries that are not, doing anything compare, doing way worse than Nigeria, I would say. But you don't hear this kind of blatant and, you know, I don't know, threats against those states. Well, but I digress. So, Bola Tinubu, you can see, is a creation of the West. There are leaks from the WikiLeaks cables a few years ago. Bola Tinubu himself, uh, when he was, I think, mayor of Lagos, you can hear him just yapping, yapping. If you go through all those texts, to those files, you hear him just yapping to, you know, Western officials in Nigeria. And within that, since he came to power, of course, he made the lives hard for the Nigerian people. I know I'm going on a bit, but we have to lay the ground for to understand why this is taking place. So why this threat? Number one, in my opinion, I believe that, well, three three reasons why. Number one, cooperation with economic cooperation with certain states like China and so forth. We know that China is a huge investor in Nigeria, huge trade partner of Nigeria, and I believe that by making this threat against this regime of Tinubu, I believe that the hope of the West is to put pressure on Nigeria to roll back their relationship with China. And we know that that cannot be easily done, because who who can the West replace what China has brought to Nigeria? Huge investment and so forth. It's hard to just get rid of all those investment. And the right way to do that is not necessarily threat, but to bring your own investment, bring your own economic cooperation, and bring something to the table that China might not be bringing. And the second point is that I believe the West want to get, a more stronger footprint in Nigeria militarily. We know, I don't know the Nigerian constitution, but one of the issue that Nigeria had with the spat they had with Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali when they wanted to attack Niger illegal under international law, might add again, that they could not deploy foreign troops on the soil of Nigeria. I believe you have to go through a certain process to do that, and it's probably illegal under the Constitution. I need to check that. But yes, I believe they want to get more of a military footprint within Nigeria. Remember when the military base, the Joan base, was closed in Niger, there was rumors that the US was planning to build their base in Nigeria. Of course, Nigeria came out and denied that. The US never officially mentioned that. So it is what it is. So I believe they want to get a military base there for geopolitical reasons. We have the Confederation of the Alliance of Sahel States that are gaining stronger, that are going stronger. JNIM is being defeated. The terrorist groups in the Sahel don't have a strong foothold as they did, not even, let's say, a year ago, much less 5 years ago. So terrorism is being defeated in 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 the Sahel. But also, guys, we have to understand that terrorism is not does not does not happen in a vacuum. It is our view that terrorism is supported by a lot of imperialist countries, and they use terrorism as, yes, they use terrorism against their enemy and friend and potential enemy and rivals. Everybody terrorism is used against too. It can be used to weaken your enemy. It can be used as economic sabotage, political sabotage, but it can also be used to weaken a state where that state will invite you in to fight terrorism. You know, let's say Nigeria invite foreign forces because Nigeria is proven to be incompetent. They cannot fight these terrorists. Then you can invite these imperialist countries in to come and help you to fight terrorism. They'll be there for decades. They can get access to minerals, you know, certain economic concession and so forth, which leads me to the third part. This might be another reason that I believe that these threats could be probably are making are being made to unilaterally intervene, or this humiliation is that they probably want huge economic concession in terms of minerals and so forth from the Nigerian government, and I think they're probably, trying to negotiate, with certain people. They don't think Africans should negotiate and to own what they want. But I think this is less the case because the Niger Tinubu is a billionaire, and where do you think all his wealth is? It's in the West. It's in the West. They can just freeze his asset, and he will give up those minerals in. Everybody know those who back Tinubu, the elites in Nigeria. They can just freeze their asset, and they will give up those minerals for nothing. But maybe it's a negotiation tactic. I don't know. But ladies and gentlemen, this thing, to go further, I think this threat kind of go against the Nigerian people. And what do I mean by that? Tinubu is a very unpopular leader. Tinubu has proven that he has made life worse for the Nigerian people since he's been in office. And these threats by the U.S. administration to intervene military in the country will rally support from a certain population of the country that have been frustrated with Tinubu. Even the so-called, even well, not even a certain Christian population, because we know, a lot of politicians probably use a lot of tribalism, but we have Tinubu is not necessary. Tinubu might come from a tribe that has Christian, and they might view that as an attack on their ethnic group, or just in general, anybody would threaten to attack a country, or to intervene in a country like this, the population themselves will say, no, 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 we don't want that, especially when they see the track record of those who are trying to intervene within your country. They might rally behind this puppet leader. So I don't know if that is purposefully or it's, you know, I don't know if that is the intention of these threats. But Tinubu and these elites in Nigeria should not be reinforced by these threats. This is this is a complete humiliation. That is a humiliation to threaten unilaterally intervention in a country like Nigeria, which is claimed to be one of the most powerful military in Africa. We know that's not the case because Boko Haram has been in the country for decades. We wouldn't have had this problem if we had strong institutions, a strong military, strong leaders who can eradicate this problem once and for all. So, ladies and gentlemen, this threat about military invention, I mean, intervening in a country as big as Nigeria with such a huge population is nothing that can be done overnight. So this is just I don't know, one of these three reasons. One, economic concession, roll back these economic relation you have with countries like China, more business with the US, I guess, or maybe, having a more military presence within the country, or even, access to minerals and so forth, which the West already does. So I don't know. So many people are panicking that something like this will happen. It is unlikely. It is unlikely. As a matter of fact, the reaction from the Nigerian government is so embarrassing. It showed a weak of a leader, especially on the international stage, that this guy, Bola Tinubu, is, because they all compromise. They cannot take a sovereign stand. And, just to go a bit further, this this is the perfect leader for something like this to happen. A guy like Tinubu. Just if you had a strong leader, for example, like what you had in Burkina Faso, Niger, or Mali, where, let's face this guy, these guys are on a path road to decolonization and full sovereignty of their nation. A guy like Tinubu is the perfect guy for this, something like this to happen to. And on the bright side, this might force somebody within, I don't know, it might force some change within the core of Nigeria. Maybe somebody somewhere will realize that, it's time that we stand up for ourselves. We should not be continuously humiliated like this, because nobody would like to see their country be humiliated like that, bullied. One of the interesting thing is that one of the term used was pathetic, pathetic nation. Like, your nation is pathetic. I mean, Nigeria is almost 300 million people, but look, and it has oil, it has massive natural gas, it has many minerals, huge agricultural production, huge agricultural potential, but still the country is being, you know, is so poorly governed. So maybe somebody somewhere can stand up and say, it's time for us to take our destiny in our own hands, tired of being humiliated. Africans have been humiliated at least for the past 6 centuries. So for somebody to do something like this, it kind of opens, some old wounds, old wounds. So we hope that this doesn't strengthen Tinubu first and foremost, and the Nigerian people will wake up and see that, you know, for this so-called G side to stop, or the mass unaliving of Nigerian citizens, concrete step needs to be taken to change the core of the governance of Nigeria, the system of Nigeria, and the elites that have been feasting off the country and the people of Nigeria. Because people have been, in Nigeria is have one of the highest death toll of terrorist related death in the world. And I don't see Western, until recently, and they only talk about a certain religion like the Christians that are being unalived, but they're not talking about traditional religion, people who follow traditional spiritual beliefs and so forth, and also Muslim that are being unalived. So this is totally this is a failure on behalf of the Nigerian government, the Nigerian system. So of course it needs change to the core. And yes, these terrorists are being supported from outside forces. And we know what the outside forces will do. But for the real issues to be solved, the people have to be patriotic, and the change have to come from within. So ladies and gentlemen, that is our take on the situation and our analysis. So thank you so much for joining us.